Hey you guys, it's Amy Gretchen. Welcome back to another December Daily video. So this is December Daily 2021 and this is day 3 that I'm going to be working on. And this is a little bit different, or a little bit special I should say, in that this is part of a blog hop that I'm doing with Ali Edwards' creative team. We are all using speech bubbles, either speech bubbles that came in the kit or digital files, and I actually used the digital file here and I created this cut file. This cut file will be available for you and I will have it linked on the blog post where the blog hop is going to originate. All right, so let me just walk through the cut file with you so you know what you're getting. There's going to be a cut for the front, which is right here with the speech bubble, and then the back. So you're going to need both of these, and I chose to cut mine out of a gray cardstock. This is Fog from Simon Says Stamp. And then you're going to need this will. So this will you can cut out and then write on it, or you will be able to actually print and cut this if you want, and you could type up your writing. So what this is all about for me, and what this question says, if you can't read it, it says, what do you look forward to the most in December? And then I've got answers from my children, from Adam and I, and then my daughter Bella and her husband. So that's just all of our responses, which is really funny because out of the 6 of us, 3 of us said music, which I think is very, very telling that music is a big part of our holiday season. And then I actually just created this this is a stamp from My Favorite Things. And I saw Kathy Zilski use it and I thought this is the cutest thing ever. So I was thinking about maybe putting it on the outside, doing some Copic coloring, but that's just a maybe. This will not be a part of the cut file, but this will be a part of the cut file. And this is something you may or may not want to use. It's just something that will sit over the top just to help everything kind of stand out a little bit more. And I really love the way that looked. So on this circle, you can see that there is a hole in the middle, and there's also a hole in the middle in the back here where everything is going to match up fine. Hopefully it will. I kind of adjusted it a little bit after I created it, so I'm hoping there's not an issue. I've got like a million brads here from back in the day, and I was thinking that I needed to use something that, like I needed to worry about the color, but I could actually use any color I wanted because you're not going to see this brad. So once you have everything done, now if you were just going to print this out where it's blank, I would start here. So we're going to add the back. Well, let's put it in here first. So we're going to punch it through there, and then we're going to punch it through here. And I want to make sure that it's working and that it matches. And it may not, like I said, I kind of tweaked it a little bit and I didn't want to cut it again. So if it doesn't match up with mine, I will just adjust it and create a new hole. Like I said, you could definitely back this and you will not see it. So let me just, as I turn this, I need to hold it so I can actually turn it. I just want to make sure that everything is center, and it is. So the ridges are really great right here for being able to turn it. So I definitely encourage you to have a scallop edge there if you can. It helps to turn it. Okay, so that actually works out really, really good. All right, so now that I've actually tested it out to see that it works, the next thing I'm going to do is just add that speech bubble outline. Like I said, this is definitely something you could create yourself. So instead of using a speech bubble, you could just use 2 punches. So you could create this border. I think it really helps to allow that speech bubble to kind of stand out. And I think it's just aesthetically pleasing to have this pop of red onto the gray cardstock. So I really like it. It's definitely not something that you need to do. One thing that I failed to explain about the circle. So if you are going to do this without using the print and cut, so you're going to be writing in your journaling on your computer and then cutting it out, but you're going to be doing it by hand. What you're going to want to do is put everything together and then do an outline of the speech bubble, and then turn the circle until you don't see that outline of the speech bubble. Make sure you're doing it in pencil, and then do another one, and then turn it again until you don't see the outline, and then do another one. What you'll end up seeing is that when you take it all apart, then you're seeing a template or a spot that you're allowed to write your journaling. So then you could write your journaling by hand. You could add a photo. You could do some stamping. There are so many different things that you could actually put in that spot if you wanted to. So I just wanted you guys to be aware of, if you didn't want to do the print and cut, or you'd rather see your handwriting, or you want to do a photo, that the best way to do that is do an outline onto the white circle so that you know exactly the right placement. So I didn't explain that very well, and I didn't show that very well, and I do apologize, but hopefully my explanation made sense. All right, you guys, so diving back into what I'm actually doing on screen, I'm just finishing up coloring the Santa with some Copic markers. I did kind of speed and jump through my coloring just because I'm not a whiz. I'm not like awesome at it. I just kind of do it by feel and kind of what I've seen from other artists on YouTube. I do really love using the Copic markers, and I think that they are so fun to color with. So if you ever get a chance, or if you ever want to invest, I think they are a great color medium. All right, you guys, so I basically have all of my pieces together. I just added the number 3 to that green ornament on the Santa. So that's how I'm going to add the number 3 to the day 3. And now that I've got all my pieces together, I'm just going to set that aside because I've decided that on the back side of this gray cardstock, I want to do some stenciling. So I'm going to add some paste, some glitter paste, just to make it a little special and allow it to kind of stand out a little bit more. And I think it goes really well with my day 4. So I've grabbed over this Simon Says stamp stencil, and honestly right now I cannot remember the name of it, but I will have it linked below. I'm pretty sure they have so many products still available, but I did buy it a couple years ago. So if I can find it, I will definitely link to it. It's a beautiful stencil. And I always think I just don't use these enough for how much I actually love them. So I'm really excited for the opportunity to be able to play around with it in my album. So I decided to adhere the cardstock down on the back side because I wanted to make sure that the front of my cardstock was full of the template, and you weren't going to have any missing from the tape. And so now what I'm doing is I'm taping down using some washi tape, the stencil, and I'm just trying to make sure that I get the paper where I want it so that the pattern that I want is showing through. And I'm doing a very liberal job adding the tape just because I want to make sure that there's no gaps. You can see that it's really tight. The stencil is very delicate, so I want to make sure that there was no like air or anything, so I get a really crisp image when I pull up that stencil. The paste that I'm using is a glimmer paste from Nuvo. It is absolutely beautiful. You can see how stunning it is. When you use this on even a different, like a colored cardstock, it shines through and it's just stunning. When you use it like on a pattern paper, those colors come through as well. So this is a really great paste to invest in if you are interested in, using stencils and paste in the future. This is definitely one that I would have in my stash. So now that I, added the paste, and I wanted to make sure to note that I added the paste from top to bottom, I wanted to continue to go in the same direction so that I wasn't going to get any of that paste underneath the stencil. All right, so I'm pulling everything off and I'm just rubbing the edges just to make sure that I don't have any excess on the edges as well. And make sure that you put your stencil in water and all the stuff that you used with the paste in water right away so it doesn't stick. All right, so now we are moving on to day 4. So that backside of that cardstock is going to be a part of day 4, but this is actually day 4. And what I've decided to do is I've got a photo and some journaling that I'm going to add to a pocket. So I've created this pocket here using I would say it's a partial die. I do have dies like this, but I didn't love the sentiments, so I decided to make my own using the silhouette. So this one says "this moment," and something that I was just easily able to create, like I said, in the silhouette by creating a rectangle and then a diagonal line and then adding the word "the moment" to it. If this is something that you're interested in learning how to create, I would be happy to do a tutorial. Just please let me know in the comments section below. I often never know how much of the information I should add that I'm doing on my computer and what you guys really want to see from my tutorials. So I would love to know if you like to see more of the digital aspect. So I would be happy to show you how I created this. All right, so it took me a second to get that off of the piece of paper just because that M was kind of stuck down, but I used my X-ACTO to help me get that off. And now I am just cutting out my journaling, and the journaling is the same size as the photo, which is an Instax photo. And I'm trying to think now what the size is. I think it's like a 2x3 or very simple, like 2 1/8 by 3 or something like that. If you have an Instax, you could just go ahead and measure it if that is something that you wanted to use. So you can see that I just kind of measured everything to perfectly fit together. I even created the hole for myself so I knew where I wanted to punch the hole. So the next thing that I'm doing is I'm looking for some word phrase stickers that I can add to the photo and then also the journaling. So I wanted something like one of the white with dark, like the white and black to add to the photo, and you can't hardly see what I think I said "love this" or something like that. And then the other one, I decided I wanted a bit of color, so I used one of the green sentiments and I added that just to the top there just to add a little something. And I really like the way that looks. I apologize that I am off screen right now, but like I said, I'm just adding that sticker right onto the cardstock. So at this point, I am trying to decide I feel like it's missing something. I definitely need to add the number, but I feel like it's missing something. Like that white is just a little too white. And so I decided to grab over an embossing folder and add some texture to the cardstock. And I was like, I think this would really help. And I decided that I wanted to make sure and not get the embossing onto the word at all, because I thought that it would like kind of break it and kind of crush it. So I decided to make sure that it was up above the stars. This is a embossing folder. I think it says, I don't know, the Paper Studio. I think I bought this so long ago. I think I've used it in previous December dailies, but you can see that I've got the letters sticking up. And the reason why I did that is because I really thought that the stars would crush it and you wouldn't be able to see the words very well. So I'm leaving that cardstock blank, but the other cardstock will definitely have a star. It will have a texture, and you guys, it looks so good. I'm so happy with it. And it's just exactly what it needed to add a little something. All right, so now that that's done, the next step, or really it's the last step, is trying to figure out how to create this pocket. So I decided to grab my sewing machine, and wow, that was a feat in and of itself because I had to go get it out of storage. I have not used it since I've moved in this house. Well, I guess before I do that, I'm looking through some of the embellishments and trying to decide what I want to put on the other side. I need to be able to hide the brad that's going to poke through that hole. So I'm looking for something. And I thought it might be really fun to add a big number or something like that. But I believe I end up adding a heart. You'll see that coming up. But anyway, I just wanted to say that I was trying to figure out how to create this pocket. And I end up doing it with the sewing machine. You don't actually see me doing that, but I do end up putting it together with the sewing machine. And also I wanted to let you guys be aware that the pattern paper that I'm using is actually a digital paper from Paislee Press. I believe it was a 3x4 card that I just made a little bit bigger and then printed it out. So now I'm trying to decide how I want to add the number. So I've grabbed over these circle stickers, and I'm definitely wanting something that's kind of bold that will stand out. So that's why I was reaching for the red, but none of them sat right. So that is definitely something that I will figure out a little bit later. All right, so you can see that I've jumped ahead in time and I've gone ahead and done the stitching. I really loved how this stitching looks to create a pocket, and I need to remember this for the future because I actually prefer the stitching to the adhesive like I've used in the past, and I just really love how it adds a little bit more texture to the pocket. All right, so now I'm going to put day 3 together, and I'm going to do that by using some foam tape. So I want to use foam tape because it will allow the sandwich that I'm creating to not sit so snug against the circle, and it will just turn a little bit easier. And I'm being very liberal with the foam tape. I don't want there to be a lot of gaps because I don't want there to be any sinking with the cardstock. So I'm putting on a bunch of foam tape and I'm just cutting around so that it will fit really nicely around the circle, but without touching the circle because you want it to be able to move really freely. And then I'm taking off the release paper around the circle, and I'm partially taking off the release paper on the edges. And that's going to help me to get a perfect match as I try and fit these two pieces back to back so that they fit really great together. I'm going to be able to maneuver around a little bit because those outer edges aren't down. And once I know everything is in place, then I can start pulling off some of that release paper. And that's why I took half of it off so that it would be easier to take the remaining off. And you can see I'm just testing it out and it actually works really, really well. All right, so I believe the last thing I'm going to do, because I'm going to wait to punch the holes on day 4 when I'm finished with day 5. So the last thing I'm going to do is add that heart back on there. So the brad doesn't need to turn, so I can, adhere this heart right on to the brad without any problem because the brad is fine to stay in place. So I'm just going to adhere that on. And I really love that that green kind of pops with the green in the journaling on that word phrase sticker. So actually the very last thing I'm going to do is the number. So I ended up using the same number set that I used last year with my 2020 album. So this is from Sahin Design. I really love these. And if I had decided ahead of time that I was going to use those numbers, then I would have adhered that down and sewn it right onto the pocket. But I didn't want to worry about sewing it on now. All right, so one more step. I was forgetting about Santa Claus. So I made a couple extra Santa Clauses in case I made a mistake with my coloring. And now what I've decided to do is just take those extra pieces and stack them up. So Santa Claus is kind of up on the page. You could definitely have done this with foam stamp as well, but with all those little pieces, I just think it's easier to die cut extra and then stick them together. So anyway, you guys, that is it for days 3 and 4. You do not see me adhere the Santa down. I'm not 100% sure why, but that's going to be it. So I just want to thank you guys so much for being here. And like always, if you have any questions, please leave them in the comment section below. And if you like what you saw, please give this video a thumbs up. And you guys, we will see you in the next one. Bye.